So one of the themes the last handful of months has been for us to remember that the industry is much larger than our specific bubble, okay? And I say this as somebody that struggles with that because I'm trying very actively to remember it. Because sometimes you'll see stuff that just seems so insanely out of nowhere. And you're like, how did they think they could get away with this? Like I just saw that Marvel Rivals is launching like $30 packs for different skins. And of course, Call of Duty does these like $40, $50 skins. There was the Gauntlet thing they did where I think you had to buy 4 separate packs for $20 each. So if you wanted the Gauntlet, you had to spend $80. Like that's insane to me, right? As with some of this other news for like $80 Mario Kart, $90 physical version of Mario Kart. WoW had that $100 mount. Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that just seems so insane, right? And we often throw it out there and we're like, who's buying this stuff? Well, I hate to tell you, but a lot of people. There's a new report out from Newzoo. They have this annual report where they do PC and console gaming report 2025. And this is the sort of analysis of that article. So it's going to whittle it down. The full report you can read in its entirety if you want, but this is going to go through some of the highlights because some of the tidbits here and highlights are insane. Okay, buckle up. So some big takeaways from the report, as you can see here. In our analysis of the current PC and gaming console gaming landscape, we found insightful takeaways. Player growth has plateaued, turning the live service market into a zero-sum battle for attention. This is a big thing. This is what Phil Spencer's talked about for like years, is that player growth has largely plateaued. However, certain areas of the market are growing, which suggests while the players aren't growing, more people aren't jumping in, you do see that there are people that are shifting towards like PC, for example, which can indicate that players are growing frustrated or dissatisfied with their current platform or the previous platform, whether that's, you know, PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, whatever. They're willing to go to PC because they're growing dissatisfied, or maybe they just want something more. They got money to spend and burn, who knows? But there's some big takeaways from that. But player growth has plateaued. This is the big thing that's freaking out a lot of big companies, which is pushing the live service push. Players are overwhelmed by an ever-increasing amount of content, yet are spending more time on fewer titles. This is also going to be a big tidbit because the number of players that have stuck to less than 3 games, only 3 games a year, has gone up by a significant margin. We'll talk about that in a minute. So players are frustrated and overwhelmed by the amount of just the sheer volume of games, of expansions, of DLC, of all these games. And yet they're focusing more and more on individual titles. Again, this is not about you and me. This is about the industry at large. Because again, these executives and the people greenlighting these games, thumbs up, thumbs down, they are not concerned with what you or me individually think. They care about what the spreadsheet says, what the market is doing, because that's where the volume is, that's where the scale is, that's where the money is, okay? Marketing is more important than ever, as discoverability is at an all-time low. This also is interesting because in our space, it feels like there are certain games we talk a ton about, right? So it feels like, oh, marketing's not that needed. GTA 6, everybody knows about it. But those are the exceptional games. KCD 2, people have heard of it. Marvel Rivals, people have heard of it. But what about all those other games that are more niche, that are smaller, that are struggling to get even 1,000 people to see the store page, much less buy the game? It's incredibly difficult to stand out in that market when there's just such a crazy high volume of it. So you're seeing marketing spending go higher and higher and higher as they try to outbid each other. This is also one of those pieces where release dates matter. And it's why I think you're also going to see companies try to stay away from each other within a certain bubble, not just GTA 6, but just in general, away from each other. Because when you are competing in marketing, just in general, whether it's commercials, ad spend on AdSense or TikTok ads or YouTube ad, whatever it is, the higher the competition is, the more the price goes up because everybody's bidding for the same amount of time for the same presentation of ads for that same market. And so when you release too close to something else, it can also drive up those marketing costs. All of that has a role to play in this. Publishers have a role to play, but branding, quality, and reach of influence will be critical. Quality, I think, is the newest thing that drives all of it. I mean, it's always been important, but it used to be that you could launch kind of buggy or not super well optimized games, and players would largely hand wave it away because they were like, oh, it's whatever. It's Fallout 3, it's New Vegas, it's Skyrim. Yeah, of course it's got bugs. Now, not so much. Quality, I think, is the big thing. Branding is also crucial. This is why I think you're seeing a lot of companies try to be very precise with how they present their games. And this also is true because think of some of these big, massive, catastrophic flops. The games were defined before they even were shown, really. Games like Concord were branded as a flop before they even had their first play test. Games such as, Forspoken were deemed cringe before players ever had a chance to even play it. And it's really, really tough to overcome that initial, where your game is branded as if you don't get ahead of it yourself. Sometimes you can overcome it if the thing you're trying, like some people on the internet have tried to brand your game. Like when they tried to say that KCD 2 was going to be terrible because they found like a screenshot of a character that was in the game that they deemed to be woke or whatever. If it's not accurate, then they just move on and, they start raging about something else. But often, if things are branded early on, not to your liking, as from the company's perspective, you can be in some serious trouble. So all of this is pretty significant. But here we go. Market growth returns. It's uneven. After a plateau in 2024, growth will or is expected to return in 2025, particularly on console, whereas PC remains steady but less dynamic. $85.2 billion in total software revenue is forecasted for 2025 across PC and console. Console leads growth with a 7% CAGR through 2027 compared to 2.6% for PC. A lot of this, which is fascinating, is tied into, they're going to describe it right here. It's tied to GTA 6. Console's resurgence is driven by major titles like GTA 6 and the next generation Switch, while PC's revenue remains tied to evergreen hits. So they really are banking on GTA 6 driving a lot of new console sales and spending, because the idea is when you buy a PS5 Pro to play GTA 6, because it's not going to be on PC at launch, you're also going to buy other games. Maybe if you're historically a PC player, maybe you finally decide to jump into some PlayStation exclusives, or maybe, if you decide to go with Xbox Series X, you decide to also sign up for Game Pass. That's the idea, is that it's not just GTA 6 and the console. You're also going to be spending money on other stuff as well. That's at least the idea. Same with the Switch. I mean, you buy the Switch, you're not just buying the Switch, you're buying accessories, you're buying extra controllers, you're buying a carrying case, you're buying a battery pack, you're buying micro SD cards, you're buying $90 games, like all of that has a role to play. All business models from premium to free to play remain viable. Good to hear. However, scale and success vary dramatically by platform. For many titles, growth comes from capturing share, not expanding the total audience. This, I'm gonna just say, this is why games like Marathon have such a massive uphill battle, because the industry is not like growing more broadly. There's not a lot of new players out there that just are waiting for the game that brings them into the industry. You're largely fighting over the same players. And so if your game is trying to appeal to certain types of players, it has to be so good that you win them over. Marvel Rivals has to be so good that it wins over the Overwatch players, right? If you're going to do, like, there was that story just the other day where Ubisoft is allegedly working on a new Battle Royale game that is very, very heavily inspired by Apex Legends. That game, to be successful, if it ever sees the light of day, needs to be significantly better than Apex to win over Apex fans. Now, to their advantage right now, Apex is kind of in a valley. It's not doing too hot. I used to play a lot of Apex. I loved Apex. And then it went to crap. In my opinion, it just got, well, it's a topic for another video, but you get the point. Like, if they want to capture that audience, they have to be significantly higher in terms of quality, polish, all of these things. And then they also have to be a little lucky too, because you're fighting over the same players at the end of the day, which is why it's always surprising when you see companies all rush out with their battle royales. Everybody rushes out with their extraction shooter. Everybody rushes out with their hero shooter, all at the same time. And they're all trying to compete for the same players, because the market isn't magic. It's not. Like for Marathon to be successful, they probably have to get some Destiny players. They have to get some Hunt players. They have to get some Tarkov players. They have to get all these people to jump in and try it and like it. There's not just this like mythical audience that the modern audience that's out there sitting on the sidelines waiting for the one game that wins them, right? Just doesn't happen. Not a lot of time or money left over for average games. This is also what happens when you get extremely high competition, and also games are increasing in terms of the expected spend. So player engagement is rising, but it's being monopolized. Playtime grew by 6% year over year in 2024, with Q4 setting a record. PlayStation saw a 21% surge, while PC and Xbox remained stable. Only 12% of 2024's total playtime came from new games. I'm gonna read that again. Just let that settle, okay? Only 12% of 2024's total playtime came from new games that came out in 2024. All the rest came from established titles. Maybe I'd have to double check this. Maybe they're with new games, they're not counting established like Call of Duty. Maybe they're putting that in a separate bucket. Games like Helldivers 2, Palworld, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 stood out, but even breakout hits struggled to sustain attention. Yeah, maybe we got to dig into the actual report to find out. But either way, the point is most attention is being capitalized by well-established massive online games, whether that's CSGO, whether that's Call of Duty or League of Legends or WoW or whatever else. It's those massive games, Fortnite, you know, all of those. It's those massive games that are driving most of the attention and engagement. Siege, yeah, as you can see, total playtime grew 6% year over year. And you can see, you know, it started to drop here back in, 2021. You can see it dropping a little bit. That's actually not because like players were, anything was necessarily wrong. It's just during COVID and lockdowns, players were spending a lot more time in games because they were stuck at home. You couldn't go out, do other things at nighttime when you got off work. So as they started going back to work, you saw the numbers drop naturally. But since things have stabilized, you've seen it start to grow steadily as time has gone by, and it's expected to continue growing. Playtime was driven heavily by pay to play and Call of Duty. Free to play to play, and Call of Duty. It is its own category. How crazy is that? The number of games people play is also declining on Steam. This is what I referenced earlier. This stat here is insane. As players become increasingly fragmented and harder to reach. On Steam, the share of players engaging with 3 or fewer games annually rose from 22% in 2021 to 34% in 2024. Again, this is why I say it's crucial for us to remember that we are not the average consumer. We play a lot of games, but straight up, a third of all players on Steam, 34%, a third of them are engaging with 3 or fewer titles annually. And chances are those people are playing games like Call of Duty, are playing games like, I don't know, but what other massive, like CSGO, like they're playing games like that. They're not playing, 5 or 6 AAA games. They're picking a couple games that they really like and they play the crap out of them. FIFA, yeah. Roblox. Is Roblox on Steam? I don't even know. Players that play 11 plus titles per year are declining across all platforms. Despite an ever-expanding game library, Xbox players are engaging with fewer titles over time, highlighting that access alone doesn't ensure sustained play. This is also really fascinating because Xbox players who, like almost certainly, are engaged with Game Pass much more frequently, they are also, as time goes by, engaging with fewer games. So look at this. Players are becoming more selective and playing fewer games. Annual number of titles played per person, weighted average. Okay, so per person, the average amount of titles that players are going through on PlayStation has maintained pretty much steady at an average of 9. Last 23 it dropped to 8, 24 went back up to 10, but it's 9, right? On Steam we see a massive dip and then a spike because there were some big Steam games that have done better. You're also, I think this, like 2025, I think this number will go up because a lot of these publishers that used to have their own launcher, like even Ubisoft, for example, they're starting to go back to Steam and launch games on Steam. So I think as more publishers do that and that becomes more common to just give up on your own launcher, you're going to see this more and more come up. So I wouldn't be surprised if in 2025 the weighted average is like 11 or 12 for Steam. But on Xbox, this is what's really fascinating, is that the number of titles, individual titles players are engaging with, has been dropping as Game Pass's library has gotten more impressive and more built out. Because you would think as more of these games come in, there would be more players or more games people are engaging with. Oh, we've got 5-6 new games on Game Pass. I'm going to play all of them. It's not actually seemingly happening. Part of this, though, to be fair, this is the weighted average. This could be skewed by a massive spike in players over on Xbox's side of things that are subscribed to like a Game Pass for Call of Duty, like for one game. There's probably a lot of them, just like to be fair. And that could certainly skew the average because you got a big increase in subs or even a moderate increase in subs, but a lot of them are just playing one, and that drives the average down. So it's important to remember that. Shooters dominate as the RPG and PvE genres climb. Shooter and Battle Royale remain the constant preferred game genre across platforms. Shooters rose from 22% to 28% of total playtime since 2021. They're getting more popular. Battle Royale shrank, but Fortnite now owns 77% of that space. I also wonder if they consider if they're considering Fortnite as, if they're considering it as like its own, like the whole package is considered Battle Royale, or if they're only looking at the Battle Royale mode within Fortnite. Because Fortnite's way bigger than just the Battle Royale mode, but maybe they're just considering the entire game just as a Battle Royale, even though it's a lot bigger than that, but still. As you can see, split by genre, the different colors represent the different years. Adventure, pretty much steady, flat across the board. Battle arenas, there was a little spike, back in 2022, but it's pretty much flat. What battle arena game would have come out in 2022 that would have seen that spike? I'm not sure. Battle Royale has been dropping as time has gone by. A lot of, again, I mentioned this, a lot of people at the marathon event, streamers and game designers and stuff alike, they were all saying that they expect Battle Royale is going out and the next big thing is going to be extraction shooters. Whether or not that's true remains to be seen. I'm not sure, but that's at least their theory. Role-playing grows increasingly. I mean, role-playing games are really one of the few that is seeing a clear trend of growth annually. So I think players are connecting with them more and more. And it's also because we've been eating real good. There's been some phenomenal role-playing games in the last few years, and I don't blame people for jumping into them. It makes a lot of sense. Shooters, again, of course, doing well. Simulation games, doing well. Strategy, hard to determine, where this falls off. These games are very much tied to the specific launches, and when they have a really good launch, when there's a really good simulation game that comes out, like a Satisfactory or something, it's going to be played for like 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So it's not the type of genre that grows super fast, that sees massive player spikes. It's just not. Others could be all sorts of different games, but still. Nostalgia as a strategy. Recursive nostalgia, as a live service game reaches 5+ or 10+ years on the market, they finally have a deep enough history to become nostalgic about. This is exactly what I mentioned earlier, where me, my wife, and my buddy Caleb, we used to play Warzone all the time back during lockdowns. And then we stopped because we just moved on. And they also, like Vanguard and all those updates, made it crap. So we moved on. But just last night, we tried Warzone again, and that nostalgia brought us back. Because it's like, oh, they brought Verdansk back. Let's go try it. And it was a good time, That's a huge component of this. Nostalgia paired with these remakes, remasters, that's all part of it. That's all part of this strategy because people are willing to spend money to remember the days when things were simple. Fortnite's OG season tripled engagement. That's insane. Apex Legends and Overwatch 2 tried similar nostalgia events, but saw little lasting impact, lasting being the crucial word. World of Warcraft Classic remains a benchmark for the reset strategy, offering new players a clean slate and veterans a second life. Nostalgia works if it's future-facing, but it needs to be part of a long-term engagement plan, not just a gimmick. That's certainly very, very crucial, as you can see here with engagement spikes and data that they've collected. Success on Steam now starts outside of Steam. Interesting. What does that mean? Steam's internal visibility mechanisms are losing power. Steam discounts are 4 times less effective than 2019. Interesting. Why don't players care about sales? Why are they not buying more games when they go on sale? 46% of traffic to Steam games now comes from outside the platform via social media, creators, and community buzz. Their specific platform is not driving it. It's coming from outside. As you can see, Steam sales average, impressions, and visits multiplier as time has gone by. The blue is global sales events, green is individual game sales events, and the black line is Steam game releases per year. As that spiked up, you've also seen individual game sales events plummet. You've seen annual and global sales events kind of float around the same level. It's dropped a little, but it's roughly the same. But individual game sales events have also dropped off significantly. And I think it's because margins are tighter. Publishers just can't afford to put their games on deep sales anymore. It just doesn't work. Storm Mage, thank you for the membership. Individual game sales events, such as weekend deals, have much larger impact on impressions than global sale events, but their effectiveness is significantly declining. This decline inversely correlates with the increase in games released on Steam per year. Absolutely. The bottom line, opportunity is there, but the path is narrow. Developers and publishers must compete not just for wallets, but also for time and attention. Play habits are calcifying, discoverability is challenging the ability to stand out, and players expect more than ever, especially from new IP, which is certainly true. And that's why I think, people have asked, Luke, do you think that there's going to be a gaming crash? I personally think we've already seen the start of it, but it's not like what some people seem to awkwardly be hoping for is like, oh, everything plummets and all games will be $15 again. That's not how that works, okay? This is not a housing bubble crash, okay? What's happening is you're seeing AAA third-party development almost completely evaporate. Third-party publishers are severely struggling. Whether you look at something like Embracer or what's one of the other ones, like is it Kepler? I think is one. Craven. I don't know. There's a number, but there's third-party publishers. Square Enix, Ubisoft to a certain extent. They are finding a lot of trouble getting their games seen and played by people if they pour a lot of money into it. It used to be that you could just throw money at the wall, and if you spent $100 million on an open world game like a Just Cause 4, it was going to do well, and it was going to make its money back. Now that's not a given. It doesn't happen. Yeah, gaming middle class is dying. Basically. I mean, for lack of a better term, yeah. I mean, that is basically what's happening. Storm Mage also gifted a membership. That's awesome. Bird Nerd got gifted a membership. That's fantastic. Join the Discord now that you can. Do it. Sly Ginger also, thank you for the sub with Prime over on Twitch. Thank you for that. Anderson, thank you also for the continuation of your sub that was either primed or gifted. Thank you for that as well. With all this, I think there's already been sort of a correction and a sort of crash where you're just not going to see these, like, not quite double A's, but like a step above double A, but a step below the massive triple A stuff that you see from like Rockstar or AC Shadows and things like that. So I think in large part, the budget range from like 100 million to 200 million, games that fit in that range will almost completely go away. There might be some exceptions here or there, but it's just not worth the risk. Because if you are a locked and loaded, like this is going to do well, like a new AC game or a new Monster Hunter, you're getting the $300 million budget, right? He took my thing.